Okay, back we are. Hello, everyone. Waiting for people to join the new link. And also, I will go and try to remove some of the sun because it's getting unbearable. Hello. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Anthony. So, while we're waiting for our panelists, I see that Manita is already here. So, I will add Manita to the stage. Manita, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Do you need 1 more minute?
Oh, no, I'm all right. I think I've become so used to being emotional on International Asexuality Day. It's like a ritual. You know, uh, I don't know. I don't know if other ace activists or any other ace people in general also have this connection to finding community online and listening to all ace people worldwide fighting similar things and getting similar and different joys. I just feel so blessed to be amidst all of these positive energies and all of these authentic, genuine, heartwarming experiences during IAD. So because of that, I am like most of the time weeping happy tears. So I collected myself because we're in a very aspect takeover mode. We're going to talk about
Okay.
ACE versus aspec activism, the struggles of
Uh-huh.
it, the joys of it. Can't
Yeah.
wait for people to join.
Yeah, yeah,
How are
of
you doing, S?
course.
It's been quite a day for you.
I'm doing great. Like, I have started this as at 4 a.m. my time. Then, like 2 or 3 hours later, I slept for 40 minutes, and that really helped. And then, like, I'm here. Like, I have to say, like, once again, shout out to the to all the tech support team this year. Like, they are doing, like, they were doing they're doing God's work, really. Uh, so I'm so happy. It's been really easy, really fun and easy to stay here because there's so many people doing supporting work in the shadows. So I really want to thank them. Um, so I know that you're going to leave at some point. I don't want to keep you here forever because like you have a very tough job. Uh, so we can start. I just wanted to ask before how is the chat doing and where is these people from? I see. What is the convenient? This could be some European people as well, I guess, because it's like 5 p.m. now, so it's the best time at the sun. Wait, let me read Vanessa's comment. Definitely happy tears. It's very encouraging to see the community coming together today. And you guys are the best for all your hard work. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you so much. So yeah, we're gonna start. Jai is going to join us later. I don't think I have to introduce myself again, but I will briefly do that. I'm an aromantic ace person. My name is S, and I'm an aspec activist in Italy. Manita?
I was trying to wave hi to Vanessa. I am sorry I interrupted you.
No, I introduced myself, and I wanted to know if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hi everybody. I'm MNK from Nepali Aspects. I'm the founder of Nepali Aspects. Professionally, I'm a medical doctor. I'm a psychological counselor, and I am an artist, an activist, an indigenous as well as disabled person. Those are the labels and identities that I hold. But today here, mostly focusing on the aspec activism part and the nuances of it. My experience of queerness has been very aspec oriented. The first few months of my journey, I was like declaring as a pan-romantic asexual person because I hadn't explored my romantic orientation as much. But the asexual part was very clear cut for me, and I started Nepali Aspects because of that. But later on, while delving into deeper things, I came to realize that I am on the aeroflux, pan aeroflux range. So I now prefer to call myself a gray romantic asexual person. I also identify as a solo polyamorous person. And all of these labels, even though people might say are very new words and new identities and stuff, I think these feelings and these ideas and these emotions of relationship anarchy, of solo polyamory, were present in my psyche and my life, even when I wasn't even a teenager. All of these things were deep inside my heart, and like I really knew these things about myself, but I never had the words to even explain these things to anyone, because these are not things that people talk about, especially in that age or in our place. And I just felt blessed finding the asexual community online, the aromantic community online, people who've come before us, who've created this vocabulary, who've created, the Reddit posts as well as the Instagram, the Avon, all of these platforms. Our experiences might be different, but there is a common thread, and that thread has helped us reach here. Like if I hadn't found that one person's video talking about their panromantic asexual life, I would have never known like, that this exists, and I wouldn't have been pushed go find one another asexual person who's from Nepal. And because of that, I wouldn't have even ventured activism sphere. And we wouldn't be here probably as Nepali asexuals or aspects. Like some other people might have been here in some other way, but this reality exists because of activists all over the world and people all over the world who have shared their vulnerability, who have shared a piece of their essence to the world so that everyone can know about it. So that is the thing that drives me. And I've already started with my ramble. I think it should be joining us shortly.
Yeah, Jai is in the background. I just didn't want to interrupt you, so adding Jai
Hello
to
there.
stage. Hi, Jai, you're just in time to introduce yourself to this lovely bunch we have here, if you want.
Okay. Well, all right. Okay. Hi to everyone. My name is Jai. I use she/they pronouns. I'm an Italian activist, an aspect Italian activist. I am an romantic person, and I don't know. I also do other kind of activism inside the LGBTQI plus community in Italy, but then the aspect activism has a special place in my heart, and I do my activities with Retilettera together with S. And yeah, so here I am to give my contribution to this space of taking over
Yeah,
the live stream.
this very violent panel. So, like, let's give some background. Like, last year, me and Jai held a panel called Going Aspec, in which we discussed at the aspec perspective in activism, because we know there are a lot of spaces that are specifically ace and specifically aromantic, like usually separated. There's a reason for that. There is a historical reason for why our activism got shaped this way. But we try to discuss an aspec perspective, a perspective that that keeps asexuality and aromanticism together, not erasing the important differences and specificities, but thinking about sexuality and aromanticism as two halves of a community, two halves that like intersect each other in so many ways that it's better in a political sense to think of us as two parts of one community, the aspec community, than two different communities. So these are two different approaches. And last year, we wanted to get a small space to talk about erasure in ace activism, to talk about the benefits and the challenges also of aspec activism. It was amazing. I really, really loved that panel because there were so many contributions from wonderful aromantic people. There were a lot of allosexual aromantic people in the chat also helping and sharing their experiences. So this year we wanted to do that again. The idea was to have 1 hour, but we have 2, so it's aspec takeover hours. The S is me. And I'm rejoined by Jai to talk about like an allo-aro perspective on this. But also I invited Manita. Why did I invite Manita? Because Manita is part of Nepali Aspecs, which is one of the group that like was born as Nepali asexuals and then made the conscious decision to switch to another perspective. You change your name, you change your email, you change your approach. The colors of the logo, etc., are specifically both aromantic and asexual. And so I wanted to start by asking you, why did you make this choice? Why did Nepali asexuals at some point decided to change into Nepali aspecs?
Thank you so much, S. Sid is also supposed to be joining this panel, and they're stuck in the backstage. It seems so. I was pretty occupied there. Oh, hi, Sid. I'd love to reply to this question soon after Sid introduces themselves. Hi, welcome, Sid.
Hi everyone. I had to leave the earlier panel discussion early because I had to prepare for this session as well. So hi everyone, I am Sid. I was there in the last session with Sushoban B and Zion. I use here they pronouns. I'm from Kathmandu. I'm also one of the members of Nepali Aspects. Apart from that, I'm also an indigenous person, a student, and I don't know how to say it, but working in activism directly or indirectly, ace activism, aero activism, indigenous right activism, queer activism. So yeah, that should be it.
Thank you for joining us, Sid, again. So, going back to the question that S raised, I was actually not going to be in this panel because I was like, I've rambled enough in the morning, and then like all our Nepali Aspects members will be talking for 2 hours, maybe too much Nepali Aspects time. That was what I was thinking. But then S is like, yeah, these things are something that I think we should talk about, and I would like you to join. And I was like, how can I say no to S? So I was like, yes, of course, I'll make some time and I will come ramble again, because even if I'm rambling, I am basing all of those things in the lived experiences actively as an aspec activist. So the switch that we made from Nepali asexuals to Nepali aspecs, the first year of our activism, we were Nepali asexuals through and through. Actually, there was a no we. The 2 3 months of our existence, there was only I, because it was just a me lonely Nepali asexual person who was trying to find another Nepali asexual person. There was no communities there. So I chose to write Nepali asexual firstly as an anonymous person, then publicly in a few months, in 3 months, as myself, because at that point of time I hadn't explored my romantic orientation as much. I think it has more to do with the media consumption and stuff, which led me to believe that I was a hopelessly romantic person. I am a hopelessly romantic person. My notions of romance are just not the same as a typical quote unquote romantic person, it seems. So I do feel like what people call romance is something I'm inclined towards. But it was all my attempt to find belonging, you know? It wasn't because I actually experienced romantic attraction, but because the kind of intimacy that a romantic partnership brings and is expected and allowed in the society is something that felt like the most intimate bond for me, like a most safe nurturing place for me from my point of view when I was growing up. So because of that, even if I did not experience romantic attraction, I felt like I desired a romantic connection, because the only kind of connection that I dreamt of was possible in a very hetero romantic way, because that kind of intimacy, when you share with your friends, with your siblings, uh, it was looked at as something bad. You know, it wasn't accepted as something normal. It was like, why are you being so I don't know, clingy, or why are you you know being like this? And like all of the friendships that I would have would eventually fizzle as soon as they would have a relationship, a romantic partnership. And so, because of that, I just couldn't understand it. But asexuality came pretty clear to me. I was like, even before knowing the word, I knew the feeling of being an asexual, but I thought I was a very hopelessly romantic person. So, as a supposedly pan romantic asexual person, I started out as Nepali asexuals. But as time progressed and I learned more about the asexual spectrum, then and then only the vocabulary of romantic spectrum started. You know, I don't know if it is the same in other parts of the world as well, but aromanticism almost seems to come as an afterthought, you know? Like, we, before asexuality is there, aromanticism never appears, at least in the norm, because it's as if like romantic and sexual orientation are so closely tied together in people's minds that people think that someone who is um, one kind of way in sexual orientation would also have the same romantic orientation, or even the fact that romantic and sexual orientation are two different things, and people can have different kind of orientations regarding that, is something that doesn't come to the general public's mind until and unless they are invested in their own deconstruction of their gender and sexual orientation and romantic orientation. So because of that, it took me a few months, and uh, like the internalized arophobia, I guess, it also took some of the time. And firstly, it was like, oh, I'm an asexual person. I cannot take up space in an aromantic activist space. I shouldn't put myself on the forefronts. So there might be Nepali aromantics who might want to start Nepali aromantics. I, as an asexual pan-romantic person, do not have a right to hijack that or overshadow that or all of that. Those kind of thoughts were what stopped me from starting out as a Nepali aspects. But even if I started out as Nepali asexuals, I was pretty clear that I was going to bring in the aromantic activism hand in hand with asexual activism, even if I thought I was only an asexual. Because for me, there is no liberation without liberation for all. You know, like there's no winning if like one of the identities are still struggling to even have their acronym or name across, and the other acronyms are like fighting for higher and higher and higher and higher ways of getting privileges and stuff. Like it's not a competition, it's not a fight. So because of that, I think Nepali asexuals started out as Nepali asexuals, and later on we turned to Nepali aspecs because of that, like logistically.
Thank you so much. I don't know if either Jaya or Sid, specifically maybe Sid on this, wanted to add something. No. It's okay.
Can you repeat the question? I think I did not hear you.
I just wanted to ask if there was something you wanted to add to what Manita just said on the topic of transitioning from Nepali asexuals to Nepali aspects. What changed, and also Manita talked a bit about like the fact that aromanticism often comes as seems to come as an afterthought, like only after you're talking about asexuality you can approach the topic of aromanticism, as if there was like the need to talk about one before the other and not two parallel perfectly coexistent things. So I just wanted to know if you wanted to add something, or if even Jai wanted to add something on this.
Okay, I'll say something. So when I joined Nepali Aspects, when I joined this community, it was already after the transition was finished. So when I joined it, it was already Nepali asexuals and aromantics, like Nepali Aspects. But as I scroll down the post or the emails, they were all catered towards only asexuality, and then the organizations or the institutions that were connected with us through emails or Instagram, they also mostly um, talk to us about asexuality only. Um, so I think that part has created a huge impact on the other communities, or like the other organizations that were directly or directly related with us. And I don't think this impact is a positive impact. I wouldn't say it negative as well. I wouldn't say it a neutral impact, because now also when as Nepali aspects, as Nepali asexuals and aromantics, when people are very well aware of that we work for both ace identities and arrow identities, still they only associate us with asexuality or ace identity only. The aromantic part is, we tried our best to transition it, and to establish that um, um, uh, aspects community here. But I think the other organizations, other queer community, institutions, they still associate us with only asexuality. And whether it be in Idaho, the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, um, or during June, when all these identities really come out to everyone, we are often associated only with the part of asexuality, and the aromanticism is really erased from there. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Jaya, I don't know, like, don't let me. I have been the host and the presenter.
No, I get it. I get it. I just that I realized that when it comes to, of course, the Nepali aspect history and this transition from being a Nepali sexual to Nepali aspect, I wasn't there. So like for me, it's like I can only hear to this story and be really interested, because it reflects so many processes that impact the impact communities all over the world. Because like this kind of story sounds like resonates very much, because when it comes to other association, like I can only talk from the Italian perspective, and also like when it comes to my my path towards understanding myself as part of the aspect community, I consider myself very lucky, because like when I realized I was a romantic person, I was already like among people that that were very familiar with the concept of aspect community. There was already Rete Lettera. There was already this community of people that was born with this kind of perspective. But like I see other communities both in Italy and outside of Italy, and I can see this, like how this is not like a given when it comes to this kind of transition, because like it's full of communities where like there is like an asexual community that maybe realize that there is a need for space for the romantic part of the community, but it's not easy to do this transition while not thinking the romanticism as a consequence of asexuality, as something that is subordinated to sexuality. And so like to build it's a real challenge if we are not talking about communities that are born right away as aspect. For like it's really delicate to think about a community that transition from an asexual activism to an aspect activism, to not to do it in a really mindful way. And so like I can see how in this case it was very mindful. There was like a real process, but it's not something that like I can say it's easy. I see it as a challenge, like that you as the Nepali aspect overcome, but all over the world it's not a given that an asexual community can easily transition into an aspect community without leaving something behind when it comes to a romantic part of the community.
I wanted to add to this, but I'm also adding a further step in the discussion. You mentioned something that I think is extremely interesting. Like you mentioned the fact that, as you said, like aromanticism usually comes as an afterthought after asexuality. In an earlier panel, I think you mentioned something about aromantic erasure and the fact that like aromanticism, I'm talking to Manita specifically, I think that at some point they mentioned that like aromanticism is even more erased. No one sees aromanticism. And you said, well, but we are going to discuss that in a later panel. And last year we talked about this. We talked about the fact that like for historical reasons, we tend to have separated spaces, like because the asexual activism developed at some point, and at some point it tended to erase aromantic content and aromantic struggles, etc. And so we tended to create separated spaces for aromanticism and asexuality in order to better safeguard the specificities of the two. But nowadays we can see that like there's a very strong imbalance because asexual activism, like of course we're talking about the minorities of the minorities, we know that. But when looking at these minorities, most of the content of the two macro aspect orientation is like 70% or more, 80% is about asexuality, and aromanticism is just a bit sometimes an afterthought, or I still see posts of people that categorize aromanticism as a subcategory of asexuality. So the problem is something is not working. I mean, in the system we gave ourselves to safeguard our differences and our values and what we are working towards in a political sense. And Sid mentioned something very interesting, that like even if you clearly adopted an aspec perspective, you always talk about asexuality and aromanticism. You do specific events for asexuality and specific events for aromanticism. You do events that are for both together. You change all your political graphic and social identity as an aspec group, but from the outside, you're still seen as an asexual group. You've still only the asexual part is recognized. So my question is, what can we do against that? Is it possible at this point to rewind these decades of aromantic erasure and bring forth a real aspect perspective, like bring also to the others who only see asexuality? Can we rewind? Can we rewind decades of aromantic erasure? And how can we do that?
Oh, well,
This is for
as
whoever wants to answer, of course.
I'm chiming in because I said I would talk about this in the mornings earlier. It's panel already. So, yes, it did touch on something that has even deeper connotations and active examples of when direct and indirect, passive and active erasure of aromanticism has occurred in Nepal with our engagement with other queer organizations in our places. And not more on that. I want to talk more about what we could do. I think we all know that it is not an easy task to tackle decades old arrow erasure, but I don't think it's impossible because nothing is impossible, especially for aspects. But I think we have to double down, like I'm like, yeah, you do not acknowledge our presence. I'm just going to scream and shout about that facet of my being, So like, yeah, it's June, it's Pride. You take the Pride flag. No, I'll take the arrow flag. I'm gonna take the arrow flag everywhere that I go, in every queer event that I go, so that you are faced to confront the fact that aromanticism is a separate identity and it holds specific meaning and specific lived experience, and you are not allowed to just uh, tokenize the aspec by using asexual as a token and using asexual activism or asexual inclusivity, and then leave behind aromanticism and say that, oh, we talk about all alphabets, we're so we're so forward, we don't leave anyone behind. But you never, almost never talk about agender people. You almost never, you flinch when you have to talk about aromanticism. And how it is pronounced in Nepali, apranayat mikta, you can't even utter it, because like the word for romance in Nepali is not used in everyday language. That also brings into question what is the notion of romance and how deeply are they drenched in all kind of cultures all across the globe, like what is romance anyway, and is it specific to a certain specific kinds of romance, or specific lens of what romance looks like is specific to some regions or some cultures. Due to globalization, obviously there are blurred lines because directly or indirectly, colonialism has affected all of us. The media that we consume, the books that we read, the way I'm fluent in English instead of my own mother tongue, Nepal Bhasa, is direct and indirect colonization. Nepal never was directly colonized, but look at me. Like I am a literal example of how it has impacted. I do not know how to fluently talk in my own mother tongue. I know how to speak in Nepali, which is not my mother tongue, but my indigenous language is something I had to give up on, because if I was taught that language beforehand, my tones would be so awkward that I would be ridiculed and bullied even when I would talk Nepali. So I learned to think in English so that I could be this fluent in English, So I don't know how to think in Nepali. I don't know how to feel in Nepali. So obviously I'm going to talk about romance instead of pranayatmik akarshan. The word pranayatmik, it took me 4 years to be able to pronounce this easily. So how is the regular Nepali person going to talk about romance? And if they're not going to talk about romance, how are they going to even come to aromanticism? So apranayatmikta is a challenge for people. Even pronouncing that word is a challenge for people. When are they going to start learning about aromanticism? It is a very uphill battle. But I think It is not impossible. I think with our dedication, I think with our persistence, and but that is one-sided, and that will obviously not do all of the trick. People's interest and people's consent and people's openness to learn about experiences different than theirs is something that we need to double down on. First off, when we talk about aromanticism, the most triggered people and most arophobic people would possibly be people who are on the aro spectrum, but who have never actually felt seen or never actually found space to explore their array experiences, and who have shoved themselves in a very romantic world. So when we try to break this mold of their carefully curated worldview in order to be able to live as an self erased and society erased arrow person, that is when the most struggle happens, you know. I don't know if everyone will agree to this. This might be a very unpopular opinion, but this I have seen with ace phobia, especially in the day before yesterday's regional panel we had with Vietnam and India and Nepal. We had a closed group, semi-closed group panel discussion. The comments, the questions that an ace person, supposedly ace person, uh, kept was something that got us all, triggered and sensitive, because that was from an ace person. And I'll add that if it's okay. So their question was, as
Uh,
arrow
do
people,
you need a content warning? Do we need to do a content warning for the audience? I don't know what you're going to talk about. So
probably it so it the content would be discussing about internalized acephobia.
okay.
That is the trigger warning, and I think that is it. So the comment was that they wanted to know from us panelists what we as ace people could do in the field of activism, specifically to accommodate and be, you know, allies to gay and trans people. And that part is fine. You know, we are like the best supporters and all, at least from where I stand. But the part that was triggering was when they said, "How do we use our quote unquote trigger warning ace privilege?" Yes, ace privilege, because the most we faced is annoying comments from our family members and feeling misunderstood and alone or something. And all of us panelists were just shocked and didn't know how to come to it, because uh, I'm glad that they feel that they are privileged by being an ace. I mean, that is not the lived experience I've had or people I've known who are ace have had. But lucky them that they think that is the only discrimination that ace people feel. And because of that, what happens is that I could just see the internalized ace phobia reeking, and that made me think deeper into why the resistance is so high and why it feels like the resistance is from within. So arrow erasure and aerophobia, yes, one might be because of ignorance, and that people do not know, lack of education and all of that. But in spaces like now, in Kathmandu Valley at least, not the whole Nepal, in Kathmandu Valley, in a social circle where most people are acknowledging feminism of LGBTQI plus or Q plus and even QIA plus, but then they are just not acknowledging aromanticism. That is not a lack of education, that is not a lack of ignorance, but that is direct arophobia. It might be concealed as them trying to think that it is a subset of asexuality or stuff like that. When we're screaming and shouting, it's like we've been screaming and shouting all of our lives, all of our activist lives, about asexual and aromantic identities being separate identities, sometimes overlapping but not compulsorily. But their active erasure of arrow voices and even the word aromantic in any language is arophobia. And I think that is up to us. We won't be able to change it in, I don't know, like 10, 15 years or so. But maybe by the time we die, something will change a little bit. I'm sorry, I wanted to lighten the mood, but I didn't.
So this was you wanting to lighten the mood. Okay. Great. Sorry. I don't know if anyone wanted to add to what Juanita said. You said many things, like you touched.
I don't know, because okay, if I can step in, can I step in and give my take?
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't want to be the host here.
Okay. Sorry.
It's a chat, so
It's a chat,
don't
sorry.
expect me to ask the questions. I just want to chat with you. This is
Totally.
my panel as a panelist, not my panel as a person with a bow tie asking questions.
Totally.
I still have the bow tie.
Because when it comes to like the question of like how do we move forward, how do we face this, like how do we like we see there is like, even if we approach the aspect activism point of view, like when it comes to, okay, we get it that we have to bring forward an activism that underline the difference of these identities, but also maybe underlines the fact that they have something in common, that there is some complementarity, and so it's useful to do an activism that is like coordinated, that like is unified under the aspect umbrella term, like there is still lots of confusion when it comes to the fact that we're not talking about only sexuality, but we're talking about two different identities with the point of contact that is useful to to talk about them together in a way. And so how do because the question, if I remember correctly, was like, how do we get out of this, how do we move forward? I can say, like, also from my experience when it comes to Italy, not to bring any like to just, I know that I already talked about my association, my group of activism related, but like it's really for me like so I may be biased, but like I'm really I'm really proud of the work we are doing, because like it's just a work of like be very like forward and not compromise when we talk about this. Like we're very it's just like we are crystally clear about what is our perspective on this. Like it's not like some other groups that I have seen when it comes to that, where you can see like that there is this perspective of, as we said before, like a sexuality, and then yes, a romanticism as an afterthought. Okay, we acknowledge that a romanticism exists, but like it's something that we will we think first about the sexuality and then after about a romantic people. Well, like if you do if you like think about contents, events, intervention and stuff like that right away with an aspect perspective, and you bring also the point of view of lots of different identities, because like you have the value of the lived experience of lots of different people. For example, me myself, I'm an allo person, so I'm an allosexual aromantic person, and I can bring my perspective, like an aroace person can bring their perspective, an alloace person can bring their perspective, and so on. And so like you share this you brainstorm in a way, like your point of view on subject, and when it comes to how you express it, through your communication and through your actions, your political intents, like, and if you do that all together, and like it really shows, like I think, like again, maybe I'm biased, but for example, when it comes to my group, it really shows like the aspect intent. It never feel like something is left out, and also like I think like for anyone that see this kind of communications, let's see this kind of these actions, can really ignore, like can really read anything else. Like I don't think it's possible with this kind of like way to move forward for someone to see our actions, our communication, and think, okay, this is a sexual group, because like it's not there is no ambiguity in this. Like so I think like being clear with ourselves as a community when we want to move forward in our activism is maybe the first step in doing it rightfully. And also like when you said like about the fact that you bring the romantic flag everywhere, it really like it made me think about the last Pride season, because like I brought my aromantic flag to every Pride. I also gave often I gave also speech about aromanticism and aromantic erasure, and like it was frustrating, but also in a way encouraging. The number of people that came to me asking what that flag represented, because like from one side, is still not one of the most recognizable flags, but also like you see also the fact that if you bring it, you bring it out, you bring like you work on the visibility part of the romantic identity, like people will have to see it, and then like you have the opportunity to contaminate them with this new awareness. And I don't know, I wanted also to add a little insight. I don't know if it may be useful when it comes to the fact that why is it so difficult to like why is it so much of an afterthought when it comes to romanticism? Like I don't know if I have a definite answer for that, but also like I see that there is the point is that romanticism, in my opinion, intertwines so much with so many normativities, and so like sometimes it's very hard to deconstruct them in a way, because I like none of this is part of like is the complete picture of why romanticism as an identity is so much less understood, for example, compared to a sexuality, which is still a minority identity in the LGBTQI plus world. But like when it comes to romanticism, I think like one thing that contributes, like we said so many times in so many occasions, is the fact that like as a queer community there was this big push of normalization through the message of like love is love, and so there is this idea that love is what makes us human, and like love is what's like a community, like what's in common between us, like we all love the same, no? And so like that was a way also, like I think like with good intention to like normalize a lot of things in the queer community in the eyes of the normative society in a way, also because like there was this vision of like the queer community as a very sexual thing, a very like, something that was very focused on the fact that like this is a sexual thing, this is a sexual identity, while many people of course felt like it was so much more, and so they wanted to, it's not just a sexual thing, we're not just gay, lesbian, bisexual because it's a sexual thing, but also we are like we are this as normal people in a way. So like they try to put it on they try to have a take on this through the message of love is love, which in a way maybe I don't know if how effective it was, but still now it's something that when it comes to the queer community maybe creates a sort of resistance when it comes to the fact that like okay, maybe we don't all love the same, we are not all the same when it comes to the love part, and also loving in a different way can be by itself a queer experience, and so like that's something that is very mind-blowing also in the queer community, and it's like also because of this. And also this was one of the point. Another point is the fact that like, and this is like intertwined for me specifically, but I think for lots of people in the aspec community, with the perspective of non-monogamy, because because mm, the love normativity is very intertwined with like the monogamy normativity, and so I think like lots of people, when they think about the relationship, and they think about also the hierarchy of the relationship, it's really easy to to dismantle the romantic love normativity, if you don't also address maybe the fact that okay, maybe also the idea that one relationship is above all others maybe is not necessarily true for everyone. Like it's something that comes with it's one of those deconstruction that come with other deconstruction. One of those questions that when you answer it, it comes with other three questions. And so like I think maybe for if someone is very rooted when it comes to monogamy and hierarchy of relationship and amatonormativity, it's very different to unpack all that. Like maybe it's harder to see it as something that you can unpack in your life, and so I think also that adds up to the resistance toward conceiving the romantic identity. I don't know, this was just brainstorming here.
I don't know if I didn't want to talk when maybe Sid wanted to say something, because like we all had our our round of talking, so I don't want to impose, but maybe not.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, this is a very, very interesting conversation. A lot of things coming to my head right now. Both MNK and Jay have very, very strong points, and oh my god, I was like, why cannot I think like them? But yeah, yeah, earlier Jay said, love is what makes us human, but it doesn't really define what form of love. So, it's very I don't know, contradictory thing that people do. They say love is what makes us human, and then if there's any different form of love, they start hating us, and then bullying us and stuff like that. And I also think how aromanticism is erased, has been erased from the queer community itself from the very beginning. um I think it's very, very deeply rooted in the system itself, and also in the navigating point, when a child or maybe an adult, they try to navigate themselves as a queer person, and the first thing that comes to their mind is their sexual orientation, but not their romantic orientation. um, because this is what it has been taught from years and decades, and I don't know, maybe centuries. um, they have always told us to choose, to prioritize, to always keep one thing upon other, and in this case it's the sexual orientation over romantic orientation. I think that is why the queer community also resist to this idea, the idea of aromanticism in general. After a long decade, and after a long time, we have finally come to a middle ground where the asexuality has finally been accepted by the queer people, because um, how would you describe to queer people that, oh, not having sex is natural, and when you finally convince them, and then you drop them another bomb, boom, you do not feel romantic attraction to anyone, and then there is again another resistance. So I think the hate that comes from within the community, which then slowly grows and goes out to the community of non-queer people, of heterosexual people, of straight people. um, and also it's really funny because and they expect us, um the queer people, they expect us to behave like them, to be very very same, very very homogeneous thing like that and them. But when we live like them, and then they again start to have problems because okay, in their party they have partners, and then the Arab people, they also get in a relationship, maybe not romantic or sexual, but they have partners, and then they start resisting it as well, because it's not like their version of what a relationship should look like, or what a couple does in their bed or in their house. So that resistance, again, it comes, it manifests in various forms. Usually it's hate comments, but um, if you dive deeper into the different communities, for example, Zion, earlier in the morning, they were talking about how hypersexuality is so relevant in the trans community, especially for trans men here in Nepal. So yeah, the idea of hypersexuality is very very engraved in the queer community of Nepal. At least I won't speak for the entire the global queer scenario, but specifically for the queer community. That is why I don't know, they are, I don't know, they feel threatened to coexist, because I don't know. There can be a various reasons. This is just my assumption, and also, the organizations. There are very various national level, international level organizations, NGOs, INGOs here in Nepal that work for queer rights. Their rights, their housing, living, fooding, medications, everything. Um, Also for sign languages, to make the terms more accessible to the people. But in the sign languages as well, they have only made the sign language in NSL, by the way. So NSL is Nepali sign language, so I don't know if it's that sign language, that sign would be relevant to the other parts of the world, but at least for Nepal, the NSL, they have only they have only showed the sign for asexual and not for aromantic. So that is again another erasure. So the organization who did this is also one of the very very reputed organization, an NGO, whatever you call it, of Nepal, that works for queer rights, especially for legal purposes, and for their rights, housing, their employment, everything. Um, so yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Like how we usually expect, the outsiders of the community, the heterosexual, or um, the straight people, to not understand us, while as MNK mentioned earlier, the people who are most aerophobic, aphobic are the people of the community themselves, because they have not understood themselves, and then they are very scared to, I don't know, address themselves, because a reason it would be maybe, especially if it's a queer person, they have already been through that, one phase of coming out. It was already a difficult time for them to finally accept themselves, and then again, um, and another label is added to the existing label, so their burden is also now increased. So I think to avoid that as well, they just be like, okay, I'm gonna hate it, and uh, fingers crossed it eventually fades away, yay, something like that. But jokes on them, it does not work like that. Yeah. And that's it.
Thank you so much. We still have more time, and there are so many things I want to discuss also with Giles specifically. But I just wanted to be sure, like, I don't want to hold Manita hostage because I know they have stuff to do, and they said 1 hour, not more. I see you are like not tired; you are devastated. So I don't want to keep you here. There was something I wanted to say, but I'm not sure I can say that because as always, I never remember to ask for confirmation from my from the people I have, relationships and stuff with. If I can talk about, oh yeah, I got the confirmation right now. So whilst it was talking, I was like, can I talk about you in a live stream? Please, yes or no? So yes. There's something I wanted to add. Sorry, Manitas. I started this sentence saying I don't want to hold Manita hostage, but that's actually exactly, precisely what I'm going to do. One more minute. I'm tasked with being the resident asexual here. Like most of us are asexual here, but in this specific panel, I think I'm the only aromantic person. I am, as I mentioned earlier, because I thought it was relevant to mention, I am an aromantic and ace person. And I saw a comment in the chat, this one, and I wanted to briefly touch this. The comment said, do allos maybe not understand the split attraction model or know about it? I find it helps people realize both exist, but maybe that doesn't really work. I briefly wanted to touch on this because I completely agree about all the things that were said about all the different normativities that aromanticism clashes with, and also the fact that like aromanticism is like kind of a unspeakable word in a kind of activism, in a movement that has made love is love its word, like the slogan with capital S. But also, I always want to emphasize from a specifically ace perspective and not an aro perspective, that I really don't think that the problem is that allos don't know about the split attraction model, or they not understanding. I mean, they don't understand it, but it's not simply someone explained it to them and they didn't understand it. They don't understand it on an extremely deep level. What I mean to say is that, of course, we recognize aromanticism and asexuality with its specificities. But when we do all this, we talk about this, I think there are some other things to keep in mind, that like we see these specificities. The society we live in usually doesn't. Like, we are often lumped together because we are often seen as defective in two very different and specific kind of ways, but sometimes we are just seen as generally defective and lacking something. So on one hand, there is this idea of love is love and the importance of love and love making us human, and then I'm going to talk about Jai with this, and Jai can ferociously disagree with me. But as an allo-ace person, I always feel the need to remind that, I don't want to say it like that, but to my fellow asexual people, most allos don't think of you as romantically normal. You can't be allo-romantic as much as you want, but the fact you are asexual will make most allos see you as not romantically normal. You are more similar to aromantic people than they feel you are to them. And I always, I asked for a person to confirm that I can talk about this. At the moment, I have like what I could call my polykill. Just I don't call it a polykill because I use the word gang because I'm an idiot. But in this, let's say, people that are extremely important to me, you can count my romantic relationship, which is to another asexual person. You can count a queer platonic relationship, that is to an aro-ace person. And then there is a very strong friendship in which I have, with a race person, in which I have also kind of explored sexually. This last one is a friendship. I don't consider that a relationship in any way, but we did have some sexual experimenting together. The only bond among these three that has never been questioned and as a relationship, although I say it's not one, is the last one. My romantic relationship is continuously questioned because we don't have sex. So we're just friends. My queer platonic relationship is continuously questioning because, yeah, what is that? And while on the last one, I always say it's a friendship. We both mutually consider each other friends. We don't want to consider that relationship. As soon as the topic of sexuality comes out, people say, oh, yes, I knew there was something different. There was something more than friendship. So paradoxically, the only relationship in which people don't doubt there could be genuine, actual romantic feelings is the one where there are absolutely no romantic feelings and not even alterous feelings like in a queer platonic relationship. Because there, in their perspective, I am sexually normal. Therefore, I can be romantically normal as well. But normally, I'm not considered normal. So I'm sorry, fellow asexuals, but I think this is also part of the discourse we need to have, because an aspec perspective helps us tackle this as well, helps us stop chasing the acceptance, the false acceptance from allosexual people. That's not acceptance. That's reducing us to their idea of what is normal. And a nice aspec perspective can liberate as well as asexual. I'm talking specifically about allosexual, alloromantic asexuals from this perspective, because we have to accept that our way of being romantic is not considered normal. We can try with this effort for some kind of respectability in the eyes of the allos, but they will never consider us the same as them. Sorry, that was uncalled for. I don't know if you wanted to say something about this, and then I for real am gonna let you live your life.
Oh, well, thank you so much for not letting me, leave as soon as the 1 hour clock was off, because I would have missed on something important that you've said, the fact that our romantic orientation bleeds into some aspects of our sexual orientation, and our sexual orientation very much bleeds into our romantic orientation is very true. So, a few things I wanted to note, and then I will obviously leave. One thing was, yes, the queer community that have been accepting and inclusive of asexuals are including us. One, because inclusivity and diversity is what brings funds and is very cool and brings social capital right now. That's the fetch thing, even though fetch never happened. But yeah, so that's the thing that's there. The other part is that it's very black and white, reductionist, and easy. Oh yeah, those people who don't have sex, those people who don't like sex, that's all they think about. And like, yes, we have tried to explain the split attraction model. We've tried to explain them that this is different than that, and all of that jazz. But nobody is all right with taking one more step and then acknowledging the reality for what it is. Because I think aromanticism is not as black and white as asexuality in many, many ways, because romance is not as black and white as sexual intimacy or sexual desire. That is also a nuanced conversation. I'm not reducing it into just one sort of attraction, but what romance would mean might differ, even individual, not just like community, caste, class, all of the other normativities and hierarchical things. Because of that, most people are, I think Huen and I had one conversation where we talked about how people actually do want to bring ace activism forward, but even the best of them kind of sort of give up, because like, oh my god, these queer people, how many alphabets are they going to come up with, how many theories are they going to come up with. We try to include them and we try to understand their identities and we try to understand everything, and they just come up with new things, new things, new things. And like after like breaking down everything we think is normal, now you come here and tell me that romance is something you do not experience. Romance something as basic as being a human. That simple thing also you guys want us to believe and accept that it's a normal experience for people to not experience love, their version of love. So it's sometimes too, like from their point of view, it looks like it's too much to deconstruct, especially because there's too many other isms out there that people are struggling with. you know the basic needs of a household, the education needs, the socioeconomic thing, the misogyny, the class, caste, indigeneity, disability. There's so many ways that a person is experiencing life, that for someone who is on the allo-romantic spectrum, it just wouldn't cross their mind, or even if it is brought across, they wouldn't want to deconstruct it. Like I, I don't think it's right, but I don't completely blame them, because our society is structured in a way that it does come as an afterthought. And like Sid said, the part I wanted to emphasize more was I don't have that much um, disappointment from the allo romantic allosexual people who are not, like, who are on the non-queer community, because they don't even know that a house exists. How would they know the dimensions of a window? They don't even know that the house exists. How would they know the dimensions of the window? No. But the queer people who have experience and who know that the house exists, they have been inside the house, they know where the door is, they know how many stairs there are, they know that there are windows, and they still try to erase the window and like shout and scream and say that there are no windows that look like that. That is where I draw the line. you know Again, the other thing is that when we talked about, if uh, having a demarcation of ace activism and arrow activism separately would have brought the arrow activism forward, then there needs to be enough arrow people who would feel safe enough to scream about their just allo experience. But that is too much difficult in this society, because them, like, being an asexual, like non-asexual person with like aromanticism is something that the society would completely destroy and wreck. Being an asexual person is something they are already like chewing and spitting out, because like you said, asexual, like the sexual partnership or the friendship with a sexual um you know kind of experiment was seen more as something that could be a legitimate or like more of a relationship than the actual partnerships. Is very telling, is very telling of the society. So we are putting too much burden on aromantic allosexual people to be able to bring arrow activism too much forward, especially because the resistance is too hard. And then the other part where we are a whole human being, and our aromanticism and our nbness and our aceness and our autiness and our all of these things are not separate. Everything that I do and I say will have aceness as well as arrowness in it, my ADHD as well as autism in it. I cannot segregate them. So how can I be able to compartmentalize this activism and be different? It will bleed into everything that I do and I say. So because of that, I think aspec activism, in aspec activism, sometimes aromanticism gets overshadowed and sometimes it gets invisibilized as well. But I think deep down inside, it is a very conducive environment to even learn. But in queer spaces where only asexuals are acknowledged, the real harm is there, because that is like direct erasure. But in aspec spaces, it's like, even as an aspec person, I was so crystal clear about my sexual orientation, and I, like, screamed and shout about it. But it took me months and years more to deconstruct my romantic orientation. as a gray romantic person, so sometimes it's not intentional also, like being an aspec person, keeping some might feel like the romantic orientation is a more predominant part of their identity, and asexuality or gray sexuality or demisexuality would come somewhere down below in the hierarchy of their pillar of identity. But most of the time, because of the society's black and white thinking about sex and very blurred thinking about romance, people would be able to know about asexuality sooner than aromanticism. And that's not making up excuses for them or like supporting all of that, but it's just the fact that we need to overcome this. And I think with that, I would like to thank all of you for providing this space, and I would love you guys to continue the conversations. I will be listening to them after 24-30 hours after my hospital duty ends. But today I will be taking a leave, and I think Sid will also be leaving. They've also had a very tiring day today, but IID has always been mixed with mixed emotions, all of the love, even the tire, even the drain, even the fatigue is all filled with love, even the tears all of the time. Probably today is the only day I'm not gonna cry now, because in the morning I already fulfilled that quota. So thank you everybody, and special love from Nepal and Nepali aspects, sending love to other Nepali aspects also who have come out, who have not come out. And please, I will not hold you back from continuing aspect takeover time, talking about aromanticism in the aspect activism as well. So maybe we can take a leave.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for the opportunity to giving us space and finally giving us space to rant and stuffs like that, and to express our opinions, and to remove our frustration, anger, sadness, everything. I hope you both continue with this amazing conversation, and I and MNK will be at the audience section. We will be listening to you guys, and then we will be cheering you from the comment section. Yay!
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye
much.
bye.
Here
Oh,
we are.
so
So,
how tired are you on a scale from 1 to 10?
two. Like you're
Two.
doing this since all day. I'm just arrived. Like,
Yeah, okay.
it looked to
Don't
me like I said
compare to.
nothing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Compared to you,
Okay, okay.
I'm fresh as always.
So I think we can go on.
Yes, of course.
We have another 30 minutes, and there are some things that I wanted to discuss with you specifically.
Of course.
I'm so happy that I also got the chance to let you know Nepali aspects more, and Manita especially, which is a person that
Yeah.
I have really close to my heart, and like I love them so much, and I really want like Red Lettera to be like working with Nepali aspects
Correct.
every possible time. Um, is there something you wanted to say before I move over to the things I wanted to mention?
Like we could, like I will include it when in answering what you have in mind for me, because like I find it really interesting what you said about it was a really wonderful insight, the fact that like even for for asexual people that feels normal on the romantic side, like they have to be aware the fact that like for the allosexual alloromantic society, they're already not no, like canonically romantic, like that's a very powerful insight. And also like, yes, we can talk about split attraction model and stuff like that, but deeply maybe that's the root of why aromantic and asexual people do activism together in a way. I don't know, it was very good. I really appreciated it, but let's move on. Like, tell me what you wanted to
Yeah, but also one day I hope we can go back there, because what we I mean, I don't think we talk a lot about this, about what I talked about before, but still we talk about it a bit. There's already a lot of space for aromantic ace experiences. So some discourses like this come out. I would be really interested in knowing how it is on the other side, like because my experience is that like let's say casual sex without romantic love still is like a dream, a strange thing that doesn't exist in rom-coms, because in rom-coms you have sex with someone, then you say no strings attached, but then you get together because blah blah blah. But I'd say that in the society, at least in a part of the society, not the conservative bigoted one, the concept of casual sex, of having sex with someone because you find them sexually attractive and not because you are feeling romantic feelings, is kind of recognized as a possibility. Yes. But then when you talk about allo people, so people that may feel sexual attraction but generally not, or feel romantic attraction in a very little to no romantic attraction, the reaction is extremely suspicious. Like people are always suspicious and hostile to allosexual aromantic people, in my experience, from what I've seen. And so I'm always like, but last week you said you had sex with that person, but you completely had no romantic intention whatsoever. Why was that okay? But an LORO people is not okay. So I guess that there's something specular, similar, but completely different at play. And personally, I have never had the chance to read more and know more about how it is on that perspective from the other side of the fence, like, do you also feel that, like, for example, your sexual orientation will always be considered inherently a bit abnormal because of your romantic one? Is that something that we allow aspec people share in a different way, or is it something that I feel but is not on the other side?
It's a really, really interesting question, and like I can only speak from my experience and from what I see, but I think
of course, me too.
Yeah, but it's quite
I will
different.
Be attacked.
But like I think it's quite different in a way, because but also like this also comes from the fact that I'm a queer person also when it comes to the sexual orientation, because I am bisexual. But like I think there's like there is the thing that we said before about the love is love slogan, which was a reaction to the fact that like the queer movement, especially when it comes to sexual orientation, the traditional one, let's say the one that are more recognized by the society, so gay and lesbians and sometimes also bisexual, they're seen like a perversion sometimes, like they're seen like a very sexual thing, they're seen like something you do like very sexually. Like you have from one side you have like the heteronormative society with like the normal traditional family, the also like you have casual sex in the hetero society, but like it's all in a structure of like you meet people, sometimes you have fun, but then sometimes at a certain point you will settle, and you will have a normal family, a normal relationship. When it comes to queer people, I think there is this fact that like we already see as deviant when it comes to the sexuality, and so like and also this is maybe given by the idea because like the most visible sexual orientation is the one of gay people, like so man loving men in general, but like so like that community is very sexually seen, like and also like there are some aspect of the gay culture when it comes to sexuality that is very focused on that, which is very valid and very interesting, but that perception, like in the idea of the normative society, queer people are already weird at romance, because they see, like, of course, this is just this is just a kink in a way. Like your relationship are not cannot be serious, because like they're based on the fact that you have these deviants, and like you want to not you don't want to have straight sex in a way. And so like you have like this and also this also blurs in the fact that like in the fact that there is already also a scene promiscuity, like where like it's already a given that like gay people, lesbians and bisexual like are like not seen as people that like have this strong uh, boundaries when it comes to the relationship. Like there is an openness sometimes, and like and when it comes to and like and for example, this is also seen in the reaction of the queer community, because like when it comes to the normalization of queer relationship, there was the aspect of love is love, but there was also this great focus on egalitarian marriage. So the idea of like we're like you, we want a monogamous close relationship, like. And so like in this way, the fact that someone who's queer when it comes to sexual orientation is also not canonically romantic is it's a given, because it's already, of course you're not because you don't want because the romantic way is the heteroromantic way. And so if you already have queer relationship, like it's already seen like the fact that you're a romantic is already seen like something that it's not that much of a shock, but it's difficult to extend to as something that is an identity by itself, and it's valid besides what's your about your sexuality, because you could be bisexual, homosexual, straight, and uh, and aromantic, and that says nothing necessarily on your sex life, on how much libido you have, how much you want to have casual sex or anything else. And also there is also this was one point. Another thing that comes to my mind is the fact that like there is this idea of when it comes to casual sex, like you said, there is this idea of like immaturity. There is this idea of a phase, a lack of commitment.
Yeah.
This, for example, like something that I very much felt during my young years, because like when I was a teenager, and then like I was like in my 20s, like I was exploring my relationship, my sexuality, and everything. Like, but like also like I can say that I lived strangely enough in a cis straight perspective, because like I came out as a trans person and as a bisexual person later in life. So like I did my exploration when it comes to sex, romance, and stuff like that from having the perspective technically. Then we could argue that there was already the queerness in me, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Born This Way vision, but like I explored lots of things from the perspective of a straight cis man. I know, weird, but like for me it's weird to think about it now. But like it was like that, and so like and I felt a different already back there. I felt a big difference when it comes to my way to approach relationship, but the problem is that it was blurred with this narrative when it comes to specifically in this case to masculine sexuality, where like the fact that you want to have sex with people, you're attracted to people, and you don't feel the need like or like not necessarily for a romantic attraction, for a romantic relationship, but like maybe you feel differently, like you don't have the for me it was like the absence of crashes, like I didn't understood that. I don't understand even now that the experience of having a crush on someone, feel in love with someone, and like having this drive to know them, create a relationship with them based on that. Like then right now, for example, I had many relationships that are built not because I fell in love with the person I'm in a relationship with, but based on the fact that on other things. Then but like that's not the drive in the first place. But when you're young and when you're a man in a way, but then this is also true for other identities, like the idea of like not feeling this and wanting still to have sex with people, it's seen not some like being different from a romantic attraction level, but it's seen as a phase, a problem in commitment, an immaturity in a way. So like it's like you're not fully human yet, you're still in a growing phase. And maybe there are people, this is true also for people that are like older, because like if you see someone who's like maybe not a teenager, but maybe like 30, 40 years old, like who approaches relationship with other people from just a casual sex perspective, like without the traditional commitment, usually monogamous. The idea is not like maybe this person is a romantic, but this person is still immature, is still not taking things seriously, and this is, I think, like what's like the idea that you can be a full human without the romantic attraction, like and you can be a complete person like without this part, is I think one of the big struggle when it comes to be a loaro, because when you are like in the sexual spectrum, maybe like there is this thing like we said before, that there is a connection between from the society point of view, from being asexual and being a romantic, which is not necessarily true. But like if you're both asexual and romantic, to the eye of the society, it's weirdly maybe simpler, because you're weird. Both we're weird. big quotes, air quotes, both on a sexual level and a romantic level. You're weird because the society see the sexual and romantic aspect as intertwined when it comes to real relationships. So like if there is the idea of in like dealing with people without like sexually, without having a romantic connection, but that is seen as something of incomplete, something that is like immature, like a phase, something that you do, but it's not everything you can have. Like if you think about real relationship, the sexual and the romantic part are intertwined, and so if you're like lacking like one of the two, then you must lack also on the other. And so maybe it's easier to see like, okay, I'm asexual and a romantic, they're like, okay, you're weird, but that makes sense. If you're like, maybe, I don't know, but like if you're a romantic and allosexual, they disregard this identity as an identity at all. Like they see, well, you're just immature, you're just like you just like to fuck around, and you will
find out.
and find out exactly. You will
Sorry.
you will put your head on your shoulders, and like you will find when you will grow up, you will mature, you will find your way, and you will understand the importance of having a romantic relationship in your life. That's
so we have like a bit more than 10 minutes left, and I didn't ask the question that I wanted to ask today.
Oh no. Please.
Well, but it was all extremely interesting, but like I wanted to go back. I don't know if there are also questions in the chat, because I wouldn't want to leave the chat without acknowledging questions and suggestions and reflections. So feel free to write everything down. After this panel, I'm having another one. If you want to join, feel free to. But last year we talked about like the aromantic. We talked about erasure. We talked about the shortcomings of this. It's kind of guard. At some point, we said our activism is progressing is systematically erasing aromantic people. And so this strictly separating structure is a safeguard. But we talked about the shortcomings of this safeguard, and we talked about the possibilities, at least. I don't want to say that one perspective is better than the other. Of course, I have a preference. If I didn't have a preference, I wouldn't have created this panel. But of course, I have a preference, but I don't want to say this is better than this. But we discussed the aspec perspective possibilities, at least, challenges and possibilities. I think last year it was amazing because like the chat was very involved. There were some, also the time was different, worse for us too, but better for a lot of people to join. So this year we have less people in the chat, but it was amazing, like the response that we got. And so we discussed that. We talked about erasure, we talked about erasure and ace activism. But what we left the panel with, and what I hypothetically wanted to start with this year, but you know, there's always next year.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah. Last year it was 1 hour. This year it was 2 hours.
Wow.
Next year we're just gonna take the whole live stream. Is the fact that so many, I remember so many Euro people said that like they really liked they really liked that the panel, also because it gave them for the first time like some hope that an aspec perspective could be genuine. And that was like harsh. Like so many of the people in the chat mentioned that they were usually suspicious when they see groups that want to showcase, promote, talk about asexuality and aromanticism, because so many times they've said groups then doing the same as before. So like aromanticism becomes an afterthought. Allo people don't exist. And so I distinctly remember this, that many people said like, yeah, normally when I see a group saying they want to have an aspec perspective, I'm still suspicious because I have seen these things go south so many times. So I just hypothetically, I wanted to start here, but we're going to finish on this. How about that? Before we mentioned that we have to insist, etc., but we have to keep in mind that sometimes an aspec perspective, a genuine aspec perspective, still isn't the prevalent one in our spaces. And so the people we want to reach may still, rightfully so, be suspicious of this, because they don't know if they can trust this. Aromantic people have every right to feel suspicious of asexual people saying they want to have an aspec perspective. How do we move on from here? Like, how do we do that?
Well, this is a very hard question, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah, but like first of all, this is a problem. I think it's lots of communities, not just the aspec one, because when you could say the same, for example, for the trans community, for non-binary people, or for just like when it comes to my mind, because like you would have to trust like the community speaking, like you have to feel part of the community that is speaking to you, while in this case maybe you feel like you're coming from outside. It's interesting to me, like what you said, like it's romantic people have every right to feel to not trust right away the sexual people in the community. Like the point is that I think that's part of the point, like it's like, because when it comes to, for example, an aspec perspective, like it's to like, of course, when it comes to aspec activism, like the point is like not everyone can have the whole picture from a personal experience point of view. Like, of course, like there will be people like allo people, allo ace people, which like cannot fully understand maybe the ROA's perspective and vice versa. But like the fact is, that as a community, all these perspectives are, you know, connected. There is a dialogue between them, and so like when it comes to an aspect space, I think what would help to make it more trustworthy is to really, really if you see someone of like you, like how can I say, like if you're a romantic person, as you see an aspect space, I think it's more easy to approach it if you see that is an actual aspect space, also from a composition point of view. Like if the people that are promoting this aspect space are not just, you know, asexual and ROAs people that are like promoting this space also for Allo-Aro, but like if you see also Allo-Aro people, and we come back to the Allo-Aro representation, which was also maybe something that we talked about last year, and like to have that represented also is like a seal of approval in a way, because if someone that is like that shares, of course not necessarily in an identical way, because a lot of people comes in all different shades of green, and when it comes to two, and when it comes to being like feel like you can trust a space, like if someone is an active part of that space and is promoting it, maybe you can trust it more than if there is no one. And that seems like something that is kind of obvious, but it's not that much of a given, because like there are aspect spaces without an Allo-Aro representation. There are aspect spaces like that, like that maybe have people on the romantic spectrum, but they're still part also of the ace community. And for someone who's Allo-Aro, maybe that's something that they feel like they will not be understood 100%. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's a point.
Yeah.
Not the whole picture, but you know.
Yeah. We still have 5 minutes, and I still don't see the guests for the following panel online. So I'm just going to use this 5 minutes because I've said many times that we also wanted to promote aspec, specifically ACE, since it's IAD, creators and artists. For this panel, since we had 2 hours, I thought I would have so much time because we were going to be like going slow and have no problems of time. That was wrong call. But there are some specifically Allo-Aro artists that I wanted to promote. Again, this is going to be a bit Italian-centric because I know artists from Italy, but I will try to do this. I just wanted to do a shout out to, sorry for this. Well, first of all, I just wanted to remind the people following us that me and Jai are part of Rete Lettera. We are an Italian aspec advocacy group, and we strongly believe in this aspec perspective. So we're gonna work for that until the end of time. And if you are an organization that is working specifically in an aspec direction for not just for aromantic visibility, I heard a cat, so I want to see the cat later.
You'll see the cat later, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. If you are an aspec organization like Rete Lettera or Nepali Aspects, or you are an asexual organization, but oh god, so cute! Don't distract me. And you want to work to transition into an aspec perspective, please reach out to us because we really want to work together and have weight in the conversation. I just wanted to also show that we've recently done some collection of aromantic voices. We've been doing this for 2 years on Aromantic Awareness Week. You have distracted the whole audience with the cat, by the way. And so
I'm so sorry.
In case some of you do similar things, we really like to share thoughts. I just wanted to shout out to Fatih BBB, who is a bisexual and aromantic activist, a fat queer artivist. And they are part of this M Autoproduzioni. So if you want to look up her productions here, and also there is some comics who also have aspec representation, and Claudia Fati BBB is an Italian aromantic and bisexual activist. And also I really wanted to recommend Glitter Rainbows. Glitter Rainbows is a lesbian and aromantic artist from Italy again, and these are the cutest stickers I have ever seen in my life. And also my keychain is by Glitter Rainbows. And so, yeah, I really wanted to do a shout out to this. I know they've been questioning a bit, but for now, I just wanted to do a shout out to Glitter Rainbows as well. And I think that's it. We're gonna have to move to the next panel. Any Portuguese speaking Aroal activists to recommend? Jai, do you know any? Not
Sadly,
Portuguese, no. Not Portuguese specifically, but we can try and get the voice out. Also, I unfortunately have to stop here because I see all the people in the backstage. There are so many other questions. Now it's the time for the cat. There are so many other questions that I wanted to pose to you. Oh God, it's so cute. I'm just gonna leave you with a question. This is a question I wanted to ask you, because when I prepared the timetable for this live stream, so many panelists proposed something that did have an aspec perspective, because it felt unnatural to talk about that topic, talking just about asexuality. But then we kind of get forced to do that when we have a strictly separated perspective. And so that's also something that made me think about this, that like we have the aspec takeover hours, but there's maybe an aspec takeover all around in the activism we do. I'm not saying I want to conquer IAD. It's not what I'm saying. I want to be extremely clear on that, because that was something discussed at first, that it was a discussion between also aromantic people and blah, blah, blah. But I just wanted to point this out. And with this, I say goodbye to Jaya and invite the guests.
Thank you very much.
Meow. At the stage, I'm gonna add some other people. Okay, that's great. And so I'm gonna leave you, unless you want to say hi.
I will just say goodbye. Thank you so much for having me, and have a good continuation. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. So, here we are. What time is it there? It's 7 p.m. for me.
1.
Oh,
Here in Chile, it's 1 p.m.
It's 6
Okay.
p.m.
Hello.
here.
Okay, so we're moving to the next panel, which is like, we have so many amazing panel in this year's lineup, but I think that like the prize for the panel with the coolest title goes to this one. I don't know if yeah, when I read that it was queer resistant practices against apocalyptic fatigue, I was like, okay, like just get the whole live stream, it's yours. Have it, please. It's amazing, honestly. it's also sad because like the apocalyptic fatigue we have to face is not something we should have to face. But first of all, I wanted to thank you because you literally included me in the lineup. I received an email from you saying that you want S from Eternità to be there. I was like, great, thank you so much. I wanted to ask if any of you maybe want to introduce the panel and tell us more about this amazing title and what's behind this amazing title and what we're going to discuss in the next, I think, hour and a half, yes. And then we are going to, just so people know, we're then going to Spanish, a panel in Spanish. My boyfriend keeps insisting, what do I do? Which is a panel on asexuality, consent, and navigating coercive pressure in romantic relationships. And then we're going to have this same panel, but in Spanish and more focused on the perspective from Hispanohablantes activists. I don't know how to say Spanish speaking. It feels weird to say Spanish speaking because technically, like, yes, it is Spanish. The Real Academia will want to die on this hill that it's not Spanish, but it is. So sorry, I'm going on a linguistic tangent. Do you want to introduce the panel?
When the world feels like it's burning, uh, how do we keep showing up? Soft, loud, and still dreaming. That's what we're here to explore. I'm Wilka from Hace Arro Chile, Asexuales y Aromantiques Chile, and we're gonna talk about uh, this concept that was created by Perez and Storks. I'm very bad at pronouncing last names. I think it's Stokes. Maybe the person from Great
Hello.
Britain will help me to pronounce it better. And what is this? This is when you feel like nothing else can be done. It's what like Manuel Castells from Spain calls apathy. And it has 5 points. One is distance. It's like this is far away from me. This is um outside my circle of influence. So I cannot do anything. The second one is doom. The world's gonna end in 10 years. We can't not do anything about it. Next one is dissonance. So when, for example, in queer communities, I have said in my life transphobic things. I even don't understand what queerness is. So I start to denying it. And denial is the fourth one. It's like, no, it cannot be that bad. It cannot be that for trans people, the life expectancy is 37 years old worldwide. That's too much. I'm 50. So that means I should be dead, statistically speaking. So that is too much for me. And then identity. I'm gonna make a caricature of this and I wanna say, I am asexual, aromantic, and that's it, and everybody else is out of my struggle. So these things, it's a big toll. And how do we face this? How do we counteract against these things that are in ourselves and in our communities? And when I decide I don't want to participate anymore, I won't get involved anymore, I will put a mask and I will get into the world and I'll try to be part of this world that rejects me and rejects people I love and they are like me. So that is the big question that we're gonna talk about. How do we resist this harmful thing? So that's what we're talking about. I will let everybody to introduce themselves and say a little bit about what we're doing.
I don't want to be the next because I'm also from from Chile, but thank you for having us here. Maybe Matt, we don't know you. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Matt, he, him. I'm the founder of the Plus Importance Project. We're a charity based in the UK, and we're the UK's first registered charity focused on the plus of LGBT+. So all the identities that get forgotten about, such as asexual, pansexual, intersex, non-binary, and many more. So yeah, I guess we do everything from training and supporting organisations and public awareness right through to campaigning, including on particularly on kind of asexual and aromantic and other aspec identities within that.
I'm going to introduce myself as well. I think that people at this point know who I am, but I'm going to reintroduce myself. So my name is As. I'm part of an Italian aspec advocacy group called Rete Lettera. And yeah, before that, I have done a lot of feminist activism. Specifically, my political and feminist journey started with activism on safe and free access to abortion. So those are my roots. And then I started doing queer activism. I do a bunch of queer activism, but like the core of my work is asexuality and aromanticism. I am personally an asexual person and a bi person. And yeah, I am a fan of maps and creating maps and collecting data and emphasizing the political use of data and the political importance that providing data where there is silence can have. So this is probably what I'm going to focus on today as far as strategies and practices are discussed. But I don't know, I will say whatever the flow of the conversation brings to me.
Hello, I'm Lucia, and I'm going to introduce myself too. I identify myself as LUCIA. Do you mean that my name or? Okay. Never mind. Yeah, I'm Lucia. I'm part of the asexual community of Spain, an organization in all Spain. We have people all around the country, and we try to organize to do talks or to speak to the government to improve our legislation and things like that. But we do as much as we can. But me particularly, I also do activism in social networks where I spread about asexuality. And I started like 5 or 6 years ago, more or less, where I didn't see as much a asexual movement as today. So I've seen how everything has improved in Spain a lot. There are each day I can see more and more organization, asexual groups, meetings of asexual people in a lot of places, and I'm happy with that. Even when our politic situation is bad in general in all the globe, as we can see, but at least the asexual movement is going better. And sorry if because I have a cold right now, so I'm not as good as I should, but I'll try to do my best today. Thank you.
Well, we only know that you're part
Yes.
of ASEARO Chile, but if you want to say something more about yourself.
Well, I'm in Kat. I'm study in social science, so I'm also in love about. I mean, in love with statistics and in cartography, as you mentioned, this. So that's a passion we share. Asearro Chile, it's an erased community in the little end at the south of the world in the continent of America. And we have existed since 2012 as a small group. And right now, we have been participating in, for a very long time in this ACES Never Sleep live stream. And we consider this is a very interesting topic to share our tips and learnings about creating different practices to resist in this apocalyptic fatigue is a phenomenon that you understand as something that affects you because you are overwhelmed with what you may perceive as bad news. And the main objective of these live streams is to actually share what different perspective we have and strengthen our communities around the world. That's it.
Something, as you people may know, happened in Chile during the since 2019 from well since 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and that we tried to change our constitution. That failed, unfortunately. And the draft of the constitution, the proposal of the constitution, it is being studied around the world. It's like, wow, this is putting in. We talked about, for example, guaranteeing as a constitutional right all the types of family in a country where monoparental families is what we have the most. A group of friends living together, like I'm imagining the five of us living together as a sexual people and maybe a romantic people. We live together until we are very old, older in my case, and we live as a family. And we need those constitutional rights as a family. But that's flunked. And we still have the constitution written in the times of the dictatorship of Pinochet. But something happened. Something very interesting happened. The strategy of the conservadorism, the neoconservadorism, was to talk about, um, let me see if I get the name, um, comprehensive sexual education. And they even uh, had a pamphlet, a leaflet, with a kindergarten girl with a dildo. Like sexual education would be something like Kama Sutra teaching in kindergarten, which was absolutely absurd. But something happened that made people talk about comprehensive sexual education. I forgot about the warning. I'm sorry. And but I'm away from the warning. And we were talking about it, and now people know what comprehensive sexual education is. At least when I mention it. Last week we had a congress here in Chile about different sciences talking about diversity and dissidence and sexual diversity, and there were more than 240 talks, 240 from different parts of the world. So we are talking about it. Now I'm not talking about the hate speech. I'm talking about the good part, by the way. So we are talking about diversity. We are talking about gender. We are talking about even asexuality. So you see how the balance can go. We could see that something is bad. Oh my God, what's going on? But then we have an opportunity, a great opportunity to talk about these topics. And people are ready to listen because I don't understand it. Please explain it to me. What the heck we're talking about? So it's an opportunity.
I would like to ask, like, whether you have felt this also happened in your community, in your countries, or in countries in your areas, because we are from across the world and we're so spread apart. But for example, that's something that doesn't only happen in Chile. We have had in conversation with other communities in Latin America that studied or that made research about sexuality, and we have found these common learnings to mention that. What do you think, or something else you want to say about it?
I maybe have lost a small piece of your question, because like my connection had a small hiccup at a point, but you were asking if since we are so far apart in different countries, you were asking if these feelings of doom, of apocalyptic fatigue is something we also feel, right?
Yes, and also if you feel like, for example, Bilka just mentioned something about that an experience we have with other researchers that study sexuality, for example, and the consequence of that. Yes, Bilka.
Yeah, I think the question goes to what experiences have you had when sharing with other people that are studying, that are talking about it, that are doing or seizing these opportunities of sharing knowledge, and what's going on there? What have you discovered? What things are going on there, like in the balance?
Also, if you have no experience with researchers, it could be maybe in your community, like maybe in day-to-day life, like how you also share information about maybe the asexual community or your own organizations.
I don't know if maybe Matt go because I know that there's been some interesting stuff about research about aspec orientations in the UK. So please go.
Yeah, I think one of the things I think is important to pick up is because the asexual community is sometimes so hidden and so not visible to the general public, we kind of need to go through the step of becoming more visible and then potentially receiving questions, and with that sometimes hatred and discrimination and challenges before we can then get to a point of then getting legislation and positivity happening in some ways. And it's a really, I guess we see it a lot at the moment with particularly the trans community of there is now massive awareness that trans people exist, but now there is a huge amount of media and social and political kind of efforts to try and do as much as possible to harm that community, to kind of try and do as much to kind of create barriers for progress. And in some ways, I kind of feel like the kind of asexual community is almost like getting to that stage, and I'm concerned that we will encounter the same barriers that gay and lesbian people experienced 20-30 years ago are now what trans people are experiencing, and it kind of feels like that could happen again. I think what has been interesting in my case is working with like other LGBT plus organizations. And so one of the things in the UK is we still have it that conversion practices are illegal in the UK, as they are in many countries. And there is a real strong chance that this year the UK government will introduce legislation that bans conversion practices. However, it's likely that will focus on just the LGBT, just lesbian, gay, bisexual, and I think it is believed to be trans inclusive, but it won't include other identities such as asexual and a kind of intersex, non-binary, etc., that have historically in UK legislation always been forgotten about and ignored and not really recognised. And working with those LGBT plus organisations, while they are really supportive, because asexuality as well as other identities aren't as visible to the general public, there is resistance in pushing for a fully inclusive ban, because that might then mean that then no ban happens at all, because there isn't that kind of public awareness, let alone support for our communities. So it is a real struggle, even with organisations that you think are going to be as positive as possible, that kind of happens. And I think one thing that even today has happened is that there has been a particularly prominent person who likes to often spread kind of transphobic messages, a well-known celebrity author, I won't say any more than that, who has today kind of posted something asphobic. And it very much is, what people don't realise often is that the same people that are trying to spread gender critical kind of messages, trying to deny the existence of trans people, are the same people who are also creating barriers for other LGBT plus identities, including particularly kind of aspec identities. And it is very common for people to generally kind of fall into a camp where they are against not just like, a particular part of our community, but actually any kind of progress of the LGBT community as a whole. So it really is really important for us to work together and kind of support each other in a broader sense, to try and make sure that we can do that. And I think what we have done as a result of not necessarily having that much support from other LGBT plus organisations nationally is to try and connect with particular like social, like asexual and aromantic groups across the UK. So we have more local kind of just social meetup groups, and we've been kind of starting to build a campaign working with those groups to try and drum up some support, try and work out how we can collectively work together as, for example, an asexual community to really kind of push for that legislative change where it might not be that other organisations are necessarily at a place where they feel that they can support it without it potentially being a negative thing for other things that they're doing. So yeah, I would say that we do experience similar challenges, and it very much is like a case of trying to work out how to navigate that. And I think really it comes down to we need to be more visible, and that then helps, although it does put us at risk of criticism, of discrimination, of people being kind of challenging. It's the case that we kind of, I would like to think that we can skip that stage, but I don't think that's going to be possible. I think it is going to be that we kind of have to almost put ourselves into a position of experiencing pain and hatred to then get to a point where it can be more positive. And that for me feels very doom and gloom, that we kind of have to almost put ourselves in harm's way to some extent. I would like to think that there is going to be learning from particularly what's happening at the moment, the trans community, to be like, let's not have that happen again. But I think it still feels very early stages for us.
I'm gonna say some. Oh, maybe Lucia, you were going to say something. Sorry, I seem to overlap with people a lot. I'm so sorry. Well, we are 5 on the panels, and we don't have like things. I can show my teddy bear whenever I want to speak, so that could be a good sign. Yeah, that's approved. Okay. I'm gonna say some things in a like untidy way, in a disorganized way, because there are some things that came to my mind, different things. First, you mentioned the topic of working with the researchers and how did it work for us. I'd say that like there's not much research in Italy about asexuality and aromanticism, especially aromanticism, but there are some aspec researchers that are trying to push in that direction, and we've seen some very interesting things come up lately. Recently, we finally saw the paper from a research on aspec aspec experiences in therapy settings, and like aspec affirming and aspec erasure, aspec affirming therapy, but also aspec erasure and negative experiences of aspec people in therapy. I feel like there's still not much research on that topic. So we activists normally don't work much with researchers. I'd say that the few researchers that are working on this topic tend to try to work with activists as well, because they are usually from the community. Researchers who are not aspec usually don't really care that much about the topic in Italy. So going over some other things that were mentioned, I think that Matt brought to the table like some personal Italian aspec trauma, mentioning the difficulty in working with LGBT groups when you're working toward a specific goal and you're asking for a change, and other people fear that that change may like destroy everything. If we change that, if we include aspec people, if we include asexual people, whatever, we're gonna have no ban. We're gonna have no law at all, no conversion therapy ban at all, etc., etc. This is something we continuously see in Italy. And when I say that there was a traumatic experience, some years ago, we have the public the discussion, both in the common society and in the parliament, of our bill against hate speech and hate crimes. We have a bill against, we have a law against hate crimes, and there was a bill, the Zan bill, meant to extend our hate crime laws to sexual orientation and gender identity as well. Yeah, thanks for the content warning. When the text of the bill came out, we as aspec people pointed out immediately that was writing, that was like cementing our exclusion, like we were going to be explicitly excluded from this law. The amount of hostility, the amount of hatred, and let me say, in some cases, at least verbal violence that we as a community received from fellow queer people was astonishing. And it's something that it has left kind of a scar in queer activism on the topic. And this keeps repeating itself, like also with some regional laws. The problem is, and I also wanted to bring this topic to the table, like the problem is we are an afterthought. Nobody includes asexuality at first when the bills are written, before being discussed, when the bills are written. So what happens is that then someone passes the bill in the first level of parliament or whatever system, political system we have, and only then we come to know about this bill, or about this project or about whatever it is, come to realize that we are explicitly excluded, but then it's too late, because like the hostility against any changes at that point, it's going to be extremely strong, because at least in Italy, but I can see that like the UK has very similar dynamics. Passing that bill on hate crime was, we knew it was going to be extremely difficult. So the LGBT community is extremely defensive, and they then double down on the minorities inside the minorities, for example, the aspec communities. I have my ideas, I've been thinking a lot about this, but I first wanted to ask you if it's okay. Have you encountered this problem before, and how do you solve that? Like, how do you get to be in the room where the laws are, where the bills are written before being proposed? How do we get to that room?
Okay. This is something funny, as in maybe weird, and funny as haha. You can take out the content thing, because here in Chile we don't have that problem. When because we have a very very good relationship with other letters of the rainbow, so to speak. For example, and people can bear witness that when we are in this, because by law here in Chile, the government at a national, regional, and municipality level, they have to have these conversations and work groups with the society. And these work groups are divided in women, migration, I don't know, housing, health, etc. And one of these is LGBTQA and P plus. And let's say that transmasculinities in this meeting is not there. We, as sections, we were be talking about. Wait a minute. What about transmasculinities? What about intersex people? And slowly but surely, when we are not there, transmasculinities and intersex will say, okay, what about asexual people? And they will be hitting the table, okay, you need to include asexual. And we do it too. So I don't think this is a warning. We are talking about all the contrary, that other letters of the rainbow are talking and want us to be included. And of course, there will be one person that will want to understand the difference between asexuality and chastity. And then we explain it. Okay, no, no, wait a minute. We're talking about different things here. And also, you guys touch something that this person that I asked in the private chat how you pronounce it, because I cannot pronounce the name. He says about what do we do about this feeling of doom. And he says, be supportive. And also, what do you do about denial? What do you do about fear? Change and or rephrase. You're not changing. You are explaining it in a different way what we're talking about. With comprehensive sexual education, we talk about supportive communities. Okay, who of the people that are listening to this or in this panel don't want to live in a city, in a country, in a neighborhood that protects everybody, that is nice and respectful? Everybody wants that. And this is what we're talking about. Respect my boundaries. Don't uh, say hello to me by kissing me on the cheek because I don't want to be touched. You see, I'm a neurodivergent. And today, like a month ago, I did, okay, don't touch me. And I pointed at my pin. like neurodivergent, and the person, it was a very old person, said, "Oh, I'm sorry." So people start knowing. So let's do this, guys. Let's do something with autistic groups. Let's do something with ADHD groups. Let's do something with other people too. Because I'm neurodivergent, I'm asexual, I'm ADHD, I'm autistic, I'm aromantic. I'm like the 4A battery, which exists, by the way. And when we start looking at these intersections, and most of us live intersections, we start being, okay, we start being seen. And other people, many people said, you know what? I think I'm asexual too. And this person is an activist in trans people or queer or other any intersection. So that is a plus. So I think that that is one of the keys. Lucia wants to say something.
Yes, it's so important what you said. Uh, at the end, we are just marginalized people, so non-normative people. We need to to get close each others. I really struggle with finding my own place because I'm bisexual and biromantic, asexual, gray sexual, ADHD. I have anxiety and a lot. No, so when you are neurodivergent, well, when you belong to many places, where do you find a place you belong and a place that thinks about all you are? Is complicated. So sometimes we just can do, for example, create places with small communities, not something big, but for example, I created a group of friends open to others that are queer and neurodivergent, and that really helped me a lot with my mental health. And that's a lot. It's maybe a group of 5 or 6 people, but that's a lot. That's a lot for us, and we can keep doing this kind of acts in some places and in other countries, other cities, and we are just facing that apocalyptic feeling, that we are alone, or that feeling that people don't protect us. But if we have our communities, we have a lot. Of course, yeah, as you said before too, um, it's complicated to be accepted in queer communities sometimes. In Spain, I think it's they we are more accepted. We can see, sorry, we can see more queer communities speaking about asexuality. Aromanticism, it's more complicated, but we are more visible. But of course, one thing is to um, be a bit seen in that organization, and other is to have asexual people inside, to have yeah to to have to have more people. Sorry, so someone opened my door, and my neurodivergent brain said, "Don't talk." No, no, no brain cells here. Sorry, but yeah, we see, of course, that is a lot of organizations that don't really do a lot of things about asexuality. Just tell we exist, but yeah, at least it's something that when I started on activism, the situation was really different. So I'm at least I'm happy that things are changing.
Cool. I was going to say, I think particularly picking on your point, S, around like actually how do you get in that decision-making place in the first place? In the UK, we have members of parliament as our elected officials. I spoke to one member of parliament, and I was the first asexual they had ever met. That's how early we are in people knowing stuff. He didn't know how to do. He tried to define what asexuality was and was wrong about it. So I had to educate, and it's like just that one interaction is just like, even knowing that asexuals exist is almost like the first thing that we need to guarantee happens for decision makers, and then it's a case of making progress from there. But it's very kind of difficult to kind of get to that point in the first place. And I think when it comes to like working with other LGBT+ organizations, being in the room, like we're part of a kind of quite a few different like coalitions of different groups, and just being present, just being an organization, it's like, oh, this is the group that cares about asexuals. We don't want to annoy them. Just being in a room, all of a sudden someone's like, oh, maybe I need to think about the language that I'm using. Maybe I need to think about, is there anything I need to consider? So even if you don't say anything, you don't really do anything, just being in a space itself is already like a big kind of starting point, I think, to kind of make progress. And then hopefully by actually engaging that space, it's a case of building your reputation that actually you are a community that needs to be respected and kind of supported. And hopefully we can get to that point where you've got in Chile where actually you've got people who are backing you continuously, even if you're not in the room. But I think in our experience, we're probably still at that early stage of just people recognizing that we exist and that we are equally of value and that sort of thing as well, to deserving of that respect.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I found what Vilka said extremely interesting, because like I feel like here in Italy as well, we're building something like that, because we have a very close relationship to many other groups, many other queer groups, and we have each other backs, mostly with like well, intersex groups. They really have the aspec community back, and most of all like bi+ groups and organizations in Italy, like they bring up aspec people when aspec people are not in the room, as you said. But I still have the feeling that maybe it's something we have here in Italy, a problem we have here in Italy, that even so we don't get to be in the room. We don't get to be in the room where things are written. Of course, like I went on this tangent before because like what Matt said inspired me to go down memory lane and nostalgia and talk about what happened with our hate speech law, hate crime law, etc., etc. But the situation now is starkly different, and so I just wanted to add something because I never really answered like Kath's first question, like this panel's question. Am I feeling it? Am I feeling this sense of impending doom? Am I feeling this sense of apocalyptic fatigue? I think in Italy we are, because like we have a fascist government right now, and I think that like we did expect things to go south, but they went south with such speed, such surgical precision. Like this government came up and immediately started surgically targeting queer people, trans people specifically, and we're feeling, I think that like the way I experienced this apocalyptic fatigue is like that. I feel everything is so fast paced, I feel like also the political left moves at a glacial pace. We're always too slow. We're always too late. While the far right is now enacting a plan that was perfectly surgically prepared. And so it's like feeling that people who hate us are always going to be a step ahead. I don't know, like other Italian people in the chat can say if I'm accurately describing the feelings we're feeling in Italy right now. But like things went south so fast and so precisely that sometimes it feels like there's nothing we can do. We actually feel like that, I think. And I think we feel scared because we didn't expect to be this much in danger this fast. I think that like US, queer people from the US are experiencing something very similar, but even more so, because like we did expect that I think we all did expect Trump not to be the friend of queer people. Personally, I didn't expect everything to go this fast and this violently. If I have to say, that's probably what's giving me most of this sense of doom. How do I keep up the pace? Or how do I stop the world going this fast?
Well, that is the question of the panel. That is the big question. And on one hand is the community. And when you do something little, even hitting the like button, commenting, sharing, and so on and so forth, for those that are with the face in front of the camera, so to speak, it is something. And also, when we do investigations, when we start getting into the academia needs to do something because the academia supports our public policies, gives the facts to the government, whatever government it is, to do something or to stop doing something. So whenever we go to these spaces with our investigation and are talking about asexuality, and there will be people saying, okay, what is that a real thing? Oh my god, I didn't know it. But okay, it is published by I don't know, whatever university, or it was in this congress, or it is in academia.edu, or JSTOR. I'm naming these libraries of investigation. Okay, then maybe, okay, I will take a look at it. So that helps too. Of course, we need to discriminate and I mean, not discriminate against, like take into account where is this investigation coming from? Will that investigation put us under the microscope and we will be a weird bug? And there's a type of investigation named dialogic investigation, comes from dialogue, that the community investigates itself. And there are many people that are not in the academia. We are not in the academia, and we are doing investigation. So let's get together with Great Britain and Spain and Italy and Chile and let's do something. Spaces like this is doing something. Because today, people that are investigating social media are looking at these videos, are looking at this streaming congress conversations, whatever you want to call it, and they are taking notes. In Spain, people like Manuel Castells. In Mexico, people like Raúl Olmedo Neri, and so on and so forth are mentioning us. Claxo today, which is the group of people investigating Latin America in social sciences, are um, listening to us, are trying to listen. So I don't think, and I deny, or no, I refuse to think the future is so dark. And I get angry. Anger is also something that moves you. Get angry, complain, do something. So embrace those emotions. I don't know, like apathy and being too tired. I mean, being tired is okay. You need to be tired. You need to rest. But be angry. Do something. Get into this emotion.
Yeah, I want to say just one phrase that the thing with that, and how do we say that fastness is taking places, taking spaces. The problem is that um, telling a lie is so fast. You just tell that, that's it, and people can believe that. But to investigate if that is true or not, or how much of true are in that, is too slow. So that movements take that in take that and use that to oppress others, and that's why we see there are a lot of movement, there are a lot of fascists in general. So I think one key thing we can do to fight that is to fight hate speech, and to fight fake news and that kind of things, but it's really complicated. And yes, that's it.
Okay, I have a question for the panel. Uh, what would you ask or request of people watching us, like maybe people that are not in activism or actively activism? I just invented a verb. What would you request? What would you tell them?
I think for me, I guess touching on the fact of being angry, like ever since I found the word asexual when I was 21, I have been angry that I didn't know it earlier. That has fueled a huge amount of my activism because I'm very focused on making sure that no one like else has to go through the same experience of me, of being confused, of not having terminology, of just being frustrated, of feeling left out, of not being able to grow up like other people my age were growing up. And so that still fuels me now of trying to make sure that there are no more people who have to kind of be denied that kind of terminology. And I think really when it comes to activism, I don't think there's a wrong way of doing it. And often there's a view of, oh, activism means standing in the street with banners and flags and really like shouting. And that doesn't work for everyone. And that's not always the most effective way of doing things. Activism can be anything it means to you. That can be liking organizations' social media posts. That can be, organizing a little tiny fundraiser. That can be writing to one organization and saying, oh, could you update your sexuality page just to make sure it's a bit more inclusive here. Little tiny things all adds up, and if we're all collectively doing small little bits of action, that all really creates something that's really positive. So I think really kind of thinking about activism in a broad sense can be really important and powerful, and just little bits can really help. It doesn't mean that you have to have that consume everything that you do, just a little bit. And I guess for me, I think it was 2022, I decided, right, I want to set a New Year's resolution of every month I'm going to do something around asexual activism. For me, that led to setting up a whole charity, but that wasn't the first thing that I did. And it might be that, just doing a little thing every so often, it doesn't have to be something big, but if we're all doing that, we are a big community that needs to be seen, needs to be heard. And if we are all doing those little things, collectively, that will create the visibility and the respect and hopefully the kind of political power that we need to actually get rights internationally. But it all takes that little kind of bit to get there. And I think it's a case of focusing on what you can control as well. You can't control everything that's out there. Actually just focus on what you can do, those little actions that you can take, and focus on the joy as well. Actually, we shouldn't just focus just on the negativity, but celebrating the diversity of our community, of the positivity, of how far we've come so far. That helps to then uplift us, to have the strength, to have the capacity, to have the enthusiasm to then continue to do the tough work that we're doing to kind of fight for rights.
Yeah, I think you just mentioned like really important things about what we are trying to get to in this panel. You mentioned the joy, the difference in our organizations. Maybe people in the public are just a small group of 2-3 friends that just find out they are asexual or in the sexual spectrum. And you have to understand that the experiences of our different communities or different organizations are very vast. Like we have over 10 years, almost 13 as Cerro Chile. We started just like you mentioned, guys, like we with a small group in a small chat room. We then found each other and physically. Sometimes we are in extreme part of our country and we cannot really interact more than once in 2-3 years and face to face, but we still find either with our small groups or with other small groups this feeling of belonging. Like you all mentioned, most of our asexual people in our communities are also neurodivergent or are also part of another community in the LGBTQ plus community. So we also have other possibilities, or working with your colleagues and with people with similar interests, maybe with feminist groups also, or another friendly groups that we can work together. That's a very important thing. And so if we right now as an organization are in the stage of having these meetings with different institutions in our government, it's because of a huge work from years and years from other activists in our country. We right now are right here in this stage, but do not feel like you are less or that you're not succeeding as an activist or even as an ROI person or LGBT queer person, because you don't see these benefits or these advances maybe in policies in your country or how people around you are treating you. This is a long journey, and we have to strengthen these alliances we're creating. So the fact that we're here, we are able to have this stream that reaches people from all around the world with internet connection and to understand this language. But still, it's a huge success, I'd say, for the ACE community. So that's it. And as you mentioned, you can do work with other institutions, big organizations, and crowdfunding, maybe, and raising like other kind of resources for people that need it. Also investigating maybe from your home, not moving much. And we also have now the possibility to choose who we let into our community to investigate. They have to have this certain. We have this protocol. Like we read if someone wants to interview and publish something in a newspaper, and we see they have already written bad things or misleading or fake news about some. Um, Sexuality or minorities, we do not let them participate with us. Like, for instance, um, and that's I say, mentioning what Lucia said, that's something that we do have control about that. Like, who we need to let it in your communities. And also, once, for example, this article is published about asexuality, we sharing with everybody, so it's also seen. Like, that's our little steps, our tips you can use in if you can have these in your organizations. That's all I'm going to say. No, I'm not going to tell much more.
Well, I really worked with in a lot of areas. For example, one part is the work I do in ACES, a sexual community in Spain, that we do talk, things like that, more focus inside the community, but also right into the government. For example, not long time ago, we they make new queer legislation where asexuality doesn't appear. Yeah, we tried to be part of that, but we couldn't. Uh, there we just try to fight and be uh, and be seen as much as we can. But for other places, for yeah, I am in other part. I also work in my town, in my city, um, working with another organization in person and that kind of things. There, I find out a lot of queer communities that doesn't accept us, but it's always try to fight. Um, and for example, for the Pride, the manifesto or something, and try to say, please, we want to appear and that kind of things. But you just need to work with them, even if you don't want. But I also decide to do another more small activities with organizations I know they accept us, and I'm happy here with a lot of organizations that really want to know more about asexuality and want to do activities, or they tell me to participate. So it's it's more like how many energy do you have to participate in its activity or in its place. For example, I think I have a lot of energy to fight, but not everyone. And some people could say, yeah, I just want to do activities inside the community and that's all, because I don't want to get exhausted. But yeah, I think it depends on where you stay, and everyone should be part of places, activities where they are comfortable at the end.
Something that you want to mention, any of you?
Yeah, I would like to say that first, S didn't answer the question. What will you tell the people that are looking at um, this panel uh, about activism and they want to be how they could about activism?
Um, I'm gonna answer that. Although, if I could choose, I I wouldn't address the people who are not doing activism. Actually, I would address the people that are doing activism, because I think that at least in Italy we have this problem where, like, I very much agree with what Matt said, that like activism can be a lot of different things, can be something extremely big, can be something small, but sometimes the people who don't keep this in mind are specifically us activists. um, I've seen so many groups in Italy that I'm not talking specifically about LGBTQI plus activism, but more in general. I've been in so many different political groups and activism groups on different issues. And one of the problem is always that we have this idea that we have to sacrifice ourselves and go into complete burnout, because like we have to change the world with our own hands. And this not only doesn't work, but it brings about a situation in which it's always the same people. We're always the same dozen of people doing all the work, because no one is going to engage. No one is going to say, I want to engage with it, because we always make, I'm talking in general, but sometimes we make people feel like the activism is this all or nothing thing, and so you have to devote yourself completely to the cause. That just brings us to, yeah, to fatigue, to dejection, to sadness, because then we realize that we have limits and we go beyond those limits with community. So after this, I would say to people who are listening to the live stream today, don't be scared to engage. Like, get in touch. Get in touch, because if you want, you can do your part. Each and every one of us have a different perspective, but also a different possibility of doing something, and everything. Each and every one of us can be important, but also reach out, because specifically in this moment, solitude is not an option, because we need community. We need community more than anything. So reach out. Don't be scared. You don't need to do a 24-hour live stream. You can like do a 10-minute one live stream. Don't listen to the people doing the live stream, which is me. Wait, I saw a teddy bear, so I have to answer in equal. Oh, hi. This is my beloved. It used to be purple, but now it's white, because this teddy bear is 27 years old. What, if possible, I don't know if there are questions from the chat, but I also want.
I would like to
Oh,
say also to it's the question is for activists and non-activists that consider themselves not activists because they are just hitting the like button, but that is also activism. Maybe not absolutely conscious and doing, but it's also activism. And my message would be first inclusion, not exclusion, is the key of survival. Um, and we know that with other groups and with other people, we have our differences, and that's the world is about. And and when we include, we can stand up against this huge thing that is coming to us or it's on us, Like I'm thinking about Argentina, I'm thinking about the USA, that it's difficult. And we have a saying in Chile that we are like rowing the same boat, and we need to row on the same direction. Go a little bit left, and maybe I'm gonna go a little bit right, or whatever. Maybe some people will go to the center, like I'm thinking about a shore where we wanna go, but we're gonna go there. We don't wanna think. And also, for what happens, like for example, in chat rooms, when we see a lot of messages and we're talking about, this happened to me, and that person feel receives support from all the community, that person, next time something happens, will say, okay, no, because that person knows that they have a community supporting them, and that also fuels us. And if you want to do something, if you want to gather a group of friends and go hiking, don't wait for us to do it for you. You can do it. You can say, okay, let's go, let's get together at this mall or whatever. I'm but go whatever uh you can do things. You can be a leader and you can change lives. Matt, I learned about asexuality when I was 47 years old. So I absolutely understand. And my message also for activists, be inclusive. When you post a poster, sort of, the lack of a better word, and it says at blah, 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 many people don't know that the at means Instagram. If you're going to do something like write down in the poster, write down the whole address. There are ways to do it shorter. Um, Remember that older people are not that.
Yeah, as you said, I think it's important to create boundaries and at the end to create a kind world, a kind society where everyone is taking in count to be part of that. And I think in general to fight that apocalyptic fatigue, I think for me what helps me more is to know people that I know they can care about me. Yeah, to create care social um uh, links to belong a place where people can take care of you and you can take care of them, and a place where they accept all of you, because we can't always um to know if we can always know if the government is going to be for us, but we know that our social care links, friends, and that kind of things is going to help us. That's it.
And get in touch with us. Reach us like Matt, ACR Chile, SSN, okay, it's at Activism. That is Instagram, by the way. Um, and Reach S from Italy. Um, about each other. Like I'm talking now directly to Matt, S, and Lucia. Let's get together. Let's do things together. Let's participate in different things, even in the academia, not in the academia. Let's create our own thing. Let's create our own school, like for people to learn about these topics, like free of charge. It will take an effort. It will be tiring, but when somebody comes to you, and this is real life, and says, you know that when I met you guys, that changed my life because I was deceiving myself. When somebody says, you know what, now I have a reason to continue living. Even if it's one person, you save one life. And for the people that are listening, maybe that friend that was in love once and doesn't understand why they haven't fell in love again, and they feel the pressure of society that falling in love again, and they're gonna talk about also extent of what I'm saying in the next panel. And that person hears you and says, you know what, have you heard about asexuality? And then boom, okay, now I understand, I can accept myself. There are more people like you. So that is a lot. Even one conversation, even one comment on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that can help many people. Or even one person. Doesn't matter.
Yes, about what Vilka just mentioned, and there are other forms to be an activist. Like you said, hitting the like button, sharing information, like maybe sharing this link for this stream. And it depends of what are your resources, what is your purpose as an aspect person. Maybe you don't have the means to create your own foundation or organization, but you can share information. Also, for example, we not always start speaking about asexuality, but we know, for example, in my case, I have friends that are feminists that are interested in teaching, and so we start talking about, oh look, this is all these amazing things that I have learned in the asexual community, because they talk about consent, they talk about boundaries and negotiation, not only in intimate relationships but also in friendships, like with mentioned with Vilka. Sometimes when we have I don't know, maybe when we teach or talk about this and with people that don't know, I say I learned this with my cat, with my pets, that they don't want to be touched, and I have to find a language, like a non-verbal language, to communicate with them. And with people, it has also helped, not because it's an animal, it's a completely different behavior I have to have with people. Sometimes it's interchangeable. Like I have a, I don't know, maybe platonic relation with someone, and this kind of negotiation works. Maybe in a romantic relationship or sexual relationship as an asexual person, I can also use these strategies, these tools to negotiate and to communicate. And this is also something that is not just beneficial for asexual people, but also for allosexual people, people who is not asexual or who is questioning, and people who needs these tools to construct a healthy and safe relationship. So I think that are also strategies to reach more people that do not know whether they are or no asexual. Maybe they know something that might be, and they engage in these topics because of that. Because like you don't go straight and openly talk about asexuality, but also about these other problems that you know that everybody has in different relationships. I don't know if any of you want to comment something, please do.
Yeah, there's a comment in the chat room. I don't know if you can hear me, about protecting youth and families. This is precisely what we're talking about. The ACE community, the ACE aromantic community, we don't necessarily think that the romantic sexual/sexual relationship is the quintessence of relationships. So we value other relationships, friendships. We have people that in our territory, we know people in our work, in our school, or whatever we do. We have people that we like, we have people we don't like, we have people we don't care about. And with everybody, we need to build healthy, respectful relationships. And when we understand that, we are protecting everybody. So that's another reason why the voice of a sexual community and a romantic community needs to be heard. It's about deconstructing or thinking and looking at the world in a different way, in a more respectful way, in a embracing way. And we start listening to everybody. So that is what a sexual community has to contribute. And of course, with all the intersectionalities, Hispanic, Arab, Asian, First Nations in the Americas. And yes, I said First Nations. Yeah, that is a rough topic. And when we understand that the First Nations had other ways of looking at the world, and this is not just a fashion or new, or like in Latin America, we have heard a lot that this is something that came from Europe or the States. It's fashion, like sexuality didn't exist before. Yes, we existed. In the history and in the Bible, there are sexual people. That is another topic. We should bring it next time, about characters in the Bible and in religion that could have been asexual. So we have been there since the beginning of humanity. There are sexual non-human animals, like in sheep. Google it, asexual study sheep, and you will see it. So we're there. We have a lot to contribute, and we're not that distracted with romantic relationships, so we can do sometimes. We have more time sometimes.
I was going to add to the point about that other people can learn about, learning about aspec identities adds so much to the general population. As an organization, we deliver training. One of the things we do is deliver training to other organizations, to other people, which includes some people that are aspec and a lot of people that aren't. And I talk a lot about, my own identity, and even things like that I'm, in a couple of months getting married to a bisexual man. That blows a lot of people's minds of like, how can this even happen? How does that work? And challenging stereotypes, and actually a relationship can be built on something that isn't sex, that actually a relationship is a lot more than that. And that you don't have to have a relationship, that actually people can be happy on their own. And that's something that society should accept. There's a lot of things where it's just challenging, a lot of people have a very kind of a view of the world that is very much shaped on lots of different societal expectations and what they learn in school and everything else like that. And challenging that helps people to actually open their mind, and actually maybe while I might be sexually attracted to people, maybe I'm not romantically attracted to people, or maybe I'm not aesthetically or sensually or platonically attracted to people. There's lots of just knowing that there's different types of attraction for a lot of people can be so eye-opening, even just to understand, maybe I do experience these types of attraction, but I experience them in different ways or to different strengths. That's something that's really valuable for lots of people to learn, not just the aspec community. I think that actually what we should be seeing is that actually the wider population is missing out by not knowing that knowledge that we have, by actually they could be happier themselves. They could, and actually by us teaching them, by us opening the door to learning more about things, actually that strengthens all relationships, not just aspec relationships. I really think that there is something there that we should hold really dear to us, as that actually, what we have to offer as an aspec community is valuable to the entire community, so the entire population, not just ourselves. And yeah, I think it's really valuable to kind of to put that in a high position and really kind of consider that.
I don't know if there's time, because I think we're running out of time. We have 2 minutes. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I really like what you just said, like this idea that the wider population is missing out. I see so many aspec people that feel extremely sad, that feel like life is going to be horrible, is going to be miserable because they are aspec. The idea of changing the narrative and of talking about ace joy and aro joy, aspec joy, I can say that I have never felt as truly happy and not alone as I have after I came out as aspec and I started seeing the bonds and the relationships I can have with people through the perspective of my aspec identity. I know I come from a very privileged place. I know not all the aspec people have the possibility of having a close community, of having other aspec people, they know aspec people to discuss with, to engage with. But as we said before, get in touch, because we are here. Sometimes we are made to believe that we are alone and that we are destined to be alone. We are not alone, and we're not destined to be alone. There's a lot of asexual people around you. You just have to find a way to find them, and we can help. So get in touch, because we can help. And also I really hope that we can keep having these international conversations, because already this evening it came out that we have different strategies, different practices, because we have different cultural backgrounds, we have different political situations and political obstacles we face. But so many of the things we do can be useful, can be a different perspective, but also useful in another cultural context. So let's share all the knowledge. I'm gonna bother Matt via DM a bit more about the campaign against conversion therapy. So just know that you're gonna receive my email. Sorry, I'm gonna shut up because you probably wanted to wrap up. So.
Well, as you mentioned, there are many heavy topics we have to face. I'm not gonna lie, the situation in different countries are quite serious. I'm not gonna say anymore, but as you mentioned, this apocalyptic fatigue is a feeling of overwhelm, and how can I say this? We have to acknowledge that it is a feeling, and we have the capacity to act and the agency to do things, whether it is finding people to support you online and face-to-face, organizations that have the resources to, I don't know, maybe have these emergency helplines, or communities that play a game, watch a movie, as was mentioned, and so much more. Also, if you feel like we have the opportunity to have an international session for, I don't know, gaming, chatting, and creating community, and elsewhere, not just in this live stream, also reach us, leave a comment, and contact us. We can work around it. That's one option. Also, creating and strengthening your communities in your local area, whether it is in queer community or not. Have people to support you physically, emotionally, and also with resources that you may need. You don't know the economic situation in different countries. Maybe you will need someone to lend you money or housing you for a few weeks before your situation gets better. That is important. Having a community and people you trust and you can reach to. Not necessarily organizations, but people you trust. That's a good a good idea. And also creating like whether it's investigation and in academia alliances. What else did we mention? Like I want to deal with the let me say this. How do we deal, for example, with fake news that Lucia mentioned of the overwhelming situation with the wrongly called conversion therapies and other terrible policies in different countries? That is important to be visible, to reach people with the political power and decision makers, and not just wait for them to reach your organization, but you go to your local governments and your more I don't know, maybe with in other political situations that you have alliances with, whether a political party or other big organizations and no ONGs. So whether it is your role or no, you can have the power to do something about it. Ways you maybe you don't have the time or the capacity to be the leader and congregate people, but you can donate. You can share information. You can talk about these topics in different places that are necessary, that need to hear our perspectives. That's my fast summary. I don't know if you want to add something more. Please do.
Yeah, I want to wrap up saying what Matt said is that we have a lot to contribute. If you are not part of this community or this identity, um, without knowing us, you're missing out totally. And to people in this identity, think that other people are missing out. It's not you the one that's missing out. And this is like an advertisement. We have a Pomodoro study group. We get together. Somebody says, okay, I have in 2 hours I need to study, and we work together. We get together, we study together, whatever everybody's studying. Then we share about what we're doing. I have learned how to make transfusions and about to catalog all things like in archaeology from the other people that have been there. And there's also a Discord for Spanish speaker community that's here in the been promoted. And those little things, whatever you do. And I really hope that today and in this 24 hours you have felt seen, that you have learned about different perspectives, and that like remember that there are communities, that other people feel the way you feel, and when you feel tired and feel this fatigue, learn about it. Learn about what this apocalyptic fatigue is. Learn about how to. There are people that have been studying this for years. Learn about it. Learn about yourself. Learn about what other people are doing. And next panel, is it ready? I don't know. It's I think it's another link. You S are the one in control of this.
Yeah, we are now moving to another link. I don't know, you've just mentioned that like I hear my voice. I don't know if there's a microphone given. Okay, great. You mentioned that like the next panelists are not ready yet, but I don't know how much time they need. Since we have to move to the next link, we may just like start moving to the next link and then like have a 10 minutes break. Nobody's
Yeah, people go to the washroom, get some water, get something to eat.
Yeah. I really need something to eat. So yes, I'm gonna take your advice to heart. See you and everyone in the chat in the next link. It's part 5. Whoa, we're almost there. I'm gonna go freshen up and eat something, and then it's gonna be up until 4 a.m. We can do it. We're doing great. So goodbye. See you in the next link that you can find here. Teso, please.